One of the problems that people have with the keyboard are getting double letters or no letter at all. And a lot of the problem will stem from the key levers sticking down. And what that entails is there's dirt in here. So what we're going to do right now is remove the star parts control and undo the levers. We're going to pull the lever out and we're going to clean these. So you can see how to do it. I'm only going to do 2 or 3 so we don't have to do the whole keyboard. Every machine will not have this star part, so most machines you won't have to do this on. But this particular machine is equipped with a star parts quadder. So you have to remove this and just lay it down out of the way. Then on the side here, we have a bar, and this bar is holding these rods in place. There's a little groove in each bar. So what we have to do is remove 1 screw here at the bottom for our purposes. If you're doing the whole keyboard, you'll need to remove all screws, both screws that are in here. And it's a real tiny screw, so if you drop it, prepare to hunt for it. That's the size of the screw that you're going to be removing. And then you want to push down on the bar, and that releases it from the rods. So this bottom rod goes to this bottom set of keys, the next rod goes to this set of keys, third rod goes to this set, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I'm going to remove the third rod, which is the third row here, just for our purposes today. Now as I remove them, you're going to see the keys. Well, they're not dropping, yeah, the key's dropping down here. What happens, each of the keys has there'll be a little shiny spot on the rod. That's where that key works on the rod. If you're doing the complete keyboard, what I recommend is to pull them all out, take this bottom rod and move it to the top position so that it's actually running on a different part of the rod, which makes it just like putting a brand new rod in your machine. So now that the rod's out, these keys can be removed and they just pull right out. And the dirty spots will be right here and right here. As you can see, they get pretty dirty from where they go through the channel right here. What I clean these with is a piece of red Scotch-Brite. And you just want to polish that area. And you get all the dirt off. Polish the area around where the rod goes through. And then polish the area up by the key. This is usually the culprit right here because it'll get dirtier than the other spots. Now you have to do that on both sides because both sides will have dirt on them. Now while these are out is a good time to take some Dawn liquid or some sort of soft cleaner and a toothbrush, and you can soak these keys and wash them, and you can get those really clean to where you can see them well again. They get dirty over the years. Now the other thing you look for on these keys is this end down here will sometimes get mushroomed from hitting in your key weight in the back. So you want to make sure there's no burrs on it and that it's nice and flat and smooth. The other thing you want to look at is you want to sight down it and make sure that it's perfectly straight, because if it's bent just a little bit, then it will also retard its movement when you're actually working with it. So now to put it back in, you slide it back in the slot, and then you kind of feel for the slot in the back. And I've done it enough where I can just fill in, because there's a plate back here that has all these little grooves in it to match up for each key to go through. That's what the dirty spot in the back was. So we're going to pull another one out. That's what that goes through the plate in the very back. And then, of course, this being the dirtiest spot usually. And again, what this is fixing is sticky keys that you have when the key will stay down and you get 2 or 3 mats when you push it each time. Sometimes it's other problems, but this is where I start because this is the main problem usually. So what you do is you do all your keys. Now, if you're doing, and let's go ahead and pull another row out. Your keys are going to be different lengths, your key rods or levers. So the closer to the top you get, the shorter the lever is going to be to reach the back. So you can pull all of these out at one time. Then when you're ready to go back together, you just stand them up and get all of them the same length together, and they'll go in a certain row. Then you just have to remember where each of the characters go in that row. And yes, even I have trouble sometimes. There we go. The key is not press too hard and bend these. If you can lay them on a table and polish them, that'll be good. Because it does not take much of a bend for these to bind again. Now, if you have trouble getting them in the back, you can take this cover off the top and you can see the back plate where you can actually push these in. But for a quick run today, we're not going to do that. Now, the other part of this is you want to polish the rod and get the dirt off of the rod itself. And I like to use the red Scotch-Brite for doing this because it takes dirt off, but not a whole lot of metal. Now, this rod was in the 3rd position. This one's in this was in the 4th position, this was in the 3rd position. So I'm going to swap them so that they're actually running on a different part of the rod, which is just like putting them in a new rod in there, basically. Now I'm going to put this one back in the 3rd position up. And this is the tricky part. You got to kind of feed them in, get them in the holes. And then once you get through this section, there's a partition here in the middle that you got to kind of get everything lined up to fit through. Okay. There we go. Now I'm into the next set of rods, which goes a lot easier once you get through that first 6 or 5. All right, now I'm putting this up in the 4th position from the bottom, and so we just swapped them. And what I'm feeling for again is the holes that they go through. Okay, that went through real easy. They don't always work that way. When you're done with that, you can put your lock bar back up. And I pushed it in too far, so the locking portion dropped down. So I got to get it back out. There it goes. Because this has to fit in the groove on the bar itself. There we go. Once they all get into the groove, then you get to fuss with the tiny little screw. And it's back together. That's how we clean the keyboard levers and rods. These are the keyboard buttons. The levers that go through are the levers, and then the rods are what goes through all the levers for them to pivot on.